Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
The words hit me like a slap across the face in front of everyone at Romano's. The kind of upscale restaurant where they charge $30 for pasta, and the waiters act like they're doing you a favor. Honestly, Ethan, no one ever notices you. You're completely invisible to women, Tessa said, twirling her wine glass with that perfectly manicured hand I used to love kissing. Her voice carried that particular tone she'd perfected over our 12 years of marriage. Sweet enough for public consumption, sharp enough to draw blood. I set down my fork carefully the way you handle explosives. Across the table, Chloe Martinez was trying not to smirk, while her husband Dave studied his plate like it contained the secrets of the universe. The restaurant buzzed around us, oblivious to my public execution. Good thing I'm not looking, I replied, keeping my voice level. After 16 years as an IT consultant, I'd learned that the calmest voice usually wins the argument. Tessa's laugh was like breaking glass. Oh, please. When's the last time any woman flirted with you? I mean, really flirted, not just being polite. My wife of 12 years, the successful interior designer who used to trace my scars from high school football and tell me they made me look dangerous. Now she was dissecting me like a failed home renovation project in front of our supposed friends. You know what, Tess? I said, using the nickname that used to make her smile. You're absolutely right. I'm invisible. Forgettable. Just a 41-year-old IT guy who fixes computers and pays the mortgage on time. She blinked, probably expecting more fight. But I'd learned something in my years of troubleshooting systems. Sometimes the best response to a crash is a clean restart. Should we get the check? Dave finally spoke up, his voice strained. As we stood to leave, the hostess, a pretty brunette maybe 25 with kind eyes, touched my arm lightly. Good luck on your next date, she said with a genuine smile that made Tessa's jaw literally drop. The drive home was silent except for the radio, playing some sad country song about cheating hearts. Tessa stared out the passenger window, her reflection ghostly in the glass. I'd installed a dash cam last month for insurance purposes, but now I was grateful for the electronic witness to this moment of quiet. Our house sat on Maple Street like a postcard from the American dream. 2-story colonial white picket fence, garden that Tessa photographed for her Instagram. Inside, everything was perfectly coordinated, because that's what interior designers do. They make everything look beautiful on the surface. I'm going to bed, Tessa announced, already heading upstairs. I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and sat in my home office, surrounded by computer monitors and the comfortable mess of cables and hardware. This was my space, the one room Tessa had given up trying to redesign. Here, I was competent. Here, things made sense. My phone buzzed with a text from Pete, my oldest friend, and the only guy I trusted completely. How'd dinner go, buddy? Like watching my own funeral, I typed back. Want to grab a beer tomorrow? I've got some things to tell you. Pete owned Murphy's Tavern downtown, the kind of place where the beer was cold and the bullshit was minimal. If he had things to tell me, it probably wasn't good news. I climbed the stairs to find Tessa already in bed, her back turned to me like a wall. The room smelled like her expensive perfume and something else I couldn't identify. On her nightstand, her phone buzzed with notifications she was ignoring. As I brushed my teeth, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Tessa wasn't wrong. I was ordinary. Brown hair going gray at the temples, lines around my eyes from squinting at screens, the soft middle that comes with desk jobs and middle age. Not ugly, but not the kind of man who turns heads, but invisible? Maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. I slipped into bed beside my wife, careful not to touch her. She was breathing too evenly, the fake sleep of someone with secrets. I stared at the ceiling and wondered when we'd become strangers, sharing a mortgage. The next evening at Murphy's, Pete was wiping down glasses with the methodical precision of a man who'd been tending bar for 20 years. The place was mostly empty, just a few regulars watching baseball and nursing their drinks. So, Pete said without preamble, I saw Tessa last Thursday. She was at that design conference in Portland. No, she wasn't. Pete's voice was gentle but firm. She was at the Riverside Hotel bar with a guy. Big guy, expensive suit, driving a black Range Rover. The bourbon I just swallowed turned to acid in my stomach. You sure it was her? Red hair like fire, that laugh that carries across a room? Yeah, I'm sure. Pete leaned closer. They weren't discussing business, if you know what I mean. I knew what he meant. The way she'd been working late, the new lingerie I'd found in her drawer, the way she flinched when I touched her, all those little signs I'd been ignoring, suddenly formed a picture I didn't want to see. Who was the guy? Don't know for sure, but Dave mentioned seeing her with Ron Vickers at some real estate thing last month. Ron Vickers. I knew the name. Big shot developer, married with kids, the kind of guy who wore his wealth like cologne. Everything I wasn't. What are you going to do? Pete asked. I finished my bourbon and felt something cold and calculating settle in my chest. I'm going to pay attention. Really pay attention. That night, I came home to find Tessa on the couch with her laptop, supposedly working on a client presentation. She looked up when I walked in, and for just a second, I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe, or annoyance at being interrupted. How was your drink with Pete? She asked. Fine. How's the Morrison project coming? Good, almost done. She closed the laptop a little too quickly. I might have to work late again tomorrow. Another conference? Client dinner, you know how it is. I did know. I was starting to understand exactly how it was. Over the next few days, I began to notice things. How Tessa's phone was always face down. How she'd started showering as soon as she got home from work. How she'd bought new perfume and started going to the gym religiously. And then I found the cufflinks. They were under her side of the bed, gold with small diamonds. Expensive. The kind of thing a successful real estate developer might wear. I held them in my palm, feeling their weight, and something inside me shifted. The hurt was still there, but it was being joined by something else. Something colder and more patient. I put the cufflinks back where I found them and went to my office. Time to do what I did best. Gather information. The beauty of being an IT consultant is that you understand how digital breadcrumbs work. People think they're being sneaky, but they leave traces everywhere. Not that I was going to hack anything, I'm not a criminal. But I didn't need to break any laws to learn what I needed to know. Tessa had always been careless with her social media privacy settings. Her Instagram was public, and she tagged locations religiously. The Riverside Hotel appeared in her stories 3 times in the past month, always during her supposed late client meetings. I cross-referenced the dates with my own calendar. Each time, I'd been working late myself, troubleshooting network issues. For various clients, convenient for her. My phone rang while I was deep in my research. Jameson IT Services. Ethan, it's Lisa Chen from Tessa's book club. Lisa had never called me before. We barely spoke at social gatherings, just polite nods and small talk about the weather. Hi, Lisa. Tessa's not here. I'm calling for you, actually. Her voice was tight with discomfort. Look, I don't usually get involved in other people's business, but I thought you should know. There's been talk. My stomach dropped. What kind of talk? About Tessa and Ron Vickers. They've been seen together at several places around town. And Chloe's been saying things about your marriage. Personal things. The betrayal hit me in waves. Bad enough that my wife was cheating, but she was discussing our private life with her friends, making me the subject of their gossip sessions. What kind of things? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. About your performance. At home. She's been very specific. Lisa's voice was barely above a whisper. I'm sorry, Ethan. I thought you deserved to know. After Lisa hung up, I said, sat in my office staring at the wall. 12 years of marriage, and this is what it had come to. I wasn't just being replaced, I was being humiliated, turned into a punchline for her friends' entertainment. That evening, Tessa announced another late client meeting. I watched her get ready, noting the extra attention to her makeup, the perfume, the outfit that was definitely not appropriate for discussing color schemes and furniture placement. "Don't wait up," she said, kissing my cheek with lips that felt like ice. After she left, I did something I'd never done before. I followed her. The Riverside Hotel was downtown, all glass and steel, and the kind of modern luxury that screamed expensive. I parked across the street and waited, feeling like a character in one of those detective shows Tessa used to make fun of. 20 minutes later, the black Range Rover pulled up. Ron Vickers stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, silver hair perfectly styled. He moved with the confidence of a man who'd never been told he was invisible. Tessa appeared in the hotel lobby, and even from across the street, I could see her face light up in a way it hadn't for me in years. They embraced, his hands lingering on her waist, and then disappeared into the hotel together. I sat in my car for 2 hours, watching the windows, imagining what was happening inside. When they finally emerged, Tessa looked disheveled in that particular way that told me everything I needed to know. The drive home was a blur of rage and hurt, and something else I was still learning to recognize. By the time I heard Tessa's key in the lock, I was back in my office, pretending to work. "How was your client dinner?" I called out. "Exhausting," she replied. "I'm going straight to bed." I listened to her footsteps on the stairs, the sound of the shower running, and made my decision. If Tessa wanted to play games, I'd play, but I'd play to win. The next morning, I called in a favor from my old college roommate, Jerry, who now worked in commercial real estate. "I need information on Ron Vickers," I told him. "The developer. Why?" "He's been sniffing around some properties in my neighborhood. I want to know what kind of businessman he is." It wasn't technically a lie. He was definitely sniffing around my property, specifically my wife. Jerry called back that afternoon with an interesting report. Vickers is successful but overextended. He's got several projects that are behind schedule and over budget. Word is he's looking for investors, maybe even considering selling some assets. Oh, and his wife filed for legal separation last month. That last piece of information hit me like a physical blow. Ron's marriage was already over. This wasn't just an affair. It was an exit strategy. I spent the weekend playing the perfect husband, bringing Tessa coffee in bed, complimenting her on dinner, acting like nothing had changed. She seemed relieved, probably thinking she'd successfully fooled me. Sunday night, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed with a text. I glanced at it reflexively and saw the preview. "Last night was incredible. Can't wait to see you again, Red." Red, her hair color. The nickname was so intimate, so casual, it made me sick. I took a photo of the message with my own phone, then deleted the evidence of my snooping. But the damage was done. Any lingering hope that I'd been wrong, that this was all some misunderstanding, died in that moment. Monday morning, I drove to Vickers Development's office building downtown. I didn't have a plan exactly, but I needed to see this man up close, to understand what Tessa saw in him that she didn't see in me. The lobby was all marble and gold, with Ron's photo prominently displayed among the company leadership. In person, he looked like central casting's idea of a successful businessman. Square jaw, perfect teeth, the kind of tan that comes from golf courses and vacation homes. I was studying his photo when a voice behind me said, "Can I help you?" I turned to find Ron Vickers himself, looking at me with mild curiosity. Up close, he was even more impressive. Probably 6'2", broad shoulders, expensive suit that fit like it was made for him. "Just looking around," I said, "thinking about some property investments." "Ron Vickers," he said, extending his hand. His grip was firm, confident. "What kind of properties are you interested in?" "Residential, mostly. I'm in IT, but I've been thinking about diversifying." We talked for a few minutes about the local real estate market. He was smooth, professional, charming in that practiced way of successful salesmen. I could see why Tessa was attracted to him. He was everything I wasn't. Polished, commanding, the kind of man who never had to wonder if he was visible. As I left his office, Ron handed me his business card. "Give me a call if you're serious about investing. I've got some opportunities that might interest you." I pocketed the card, already forming the beginnings of a plan. If Ron wanted to play in my world, I'd make sure he understood the rules. That evening, I confronted Tessa directly for the first time. "We need to talk," I said as she came through the door. She froze, her keys still in her hand. About what? About Ron Vickers? The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. What about him? I know, Tessa. I know about the hotel, the meetings, all of it. She set her purse down, carefully buying time. You're being paranoid, Ethan. Ron's a colleague. We've worked on several projects together. Is that what they're calling it now? Her eyes flashed with anger. I don't know what you think you know, but you're wrong. And frankly, I'm insulted that you'd accuse me of cheating. The gaslighting was masterful. If I hadn't seen them together, hadn't found the cufflinks, hadn't heard from Lisa about the gossip, I might have believed her. Show me your phone, I said. Excuse me? If there's nothing to hide, show me your phone.
Her name is saved as electrician. You've been calling the electrician at midnight for 4 months.
How stupid do you think I am?
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
I will not. My privacy doesn't end just because I married you. She stormed toward the stairs, then turned back. And if you're going to act like a jealous, controlling husband, maybe you should ask yourself why your wife might need to find companionship elsewhere. The words hung in the air like poison. She'd just admitted it without admitting it, turned my discovery into my fault. I watched her disappear upstairs and felt something fundamental shift inside me. The hurt was still there, but it was being consumed by something colder and more focused. If Tessa wanted to destroy our marriage, that was her choice. But she wasn't going to destroy me in the process. Not without a fight. I spent the next week in reconnaissance mode, learning everything I could about Ron Vickers and his business. The man had an ego the size of Texas and the social media presence to match. His Instagram was a carefully curated display of success. Luxury cars, expensive restaurants, photos from his various real estate developments. More importantly, he was careless. He tagged locations, posted in real time, and had clearly never heard of privacy settings. Through his posts, I could track his schedule better than his secretary probably could. Wednesday afternoon, I saw my opportunity. Ron had posted about an open house at one of his luxury developments. Come see the future of upscale living, with about 50 hashtags and a photo of himself in front of a $500,000 townhouse. I put on my best polo shirt and khakis, grabbed some real estate flyers from other developments, and drove over. The place was buzzing with potential buyers, real estate agents, and the kind of people who attend open houses for the free wine and cheese. Ron was in his element, working the crowd like a politician at a campaign rally. He wore a navy blazer that probably cost more than I made in a month, and his smile was so white it could guide ships to shore. I waited until he was in the middle of his sales pitch to a young couple, describing the unparalleled luxury of granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. Then, I walked up to the group with a big smile. Ron, great to see you again, I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Thanks for the advice about diversifying my investments. Though I have to say, I'm impressed you have time for business with everything else you've got going on. His smile faltered slightly. I'm sorry, remind me, Ethan Jameson. We met at your office last week. I'm the IT guy, remember? The one whose wife you've been screwing at the Riverside Hotel? The silence that followed was beautiful. The young couple's eyes went wide. A real estate agent nearby choked on her wine. Ron's face went through several interesting color changes. I think there's been a misunderstanding, he started. Oh, no misunderstanding at all. Tessa's been very clear about your relationship. In fact, she's told all her friends about it. Very detailed descriptions, if you know what I mean. I leaned closer and lowered my voice just enough that people had to strain to hear. Though between you and me, I think she's been exaggerating about your performance. You know how women are. Ron's jaw clenched. You need to leave, now. Absolutely. Just wanted to congratulate you on your excellent taste. Tessa really is something special, isn't she? Especially that thing she does with her. Security, Ron called out, his composure finally cracking. I raised my hands in mock surrender. No need for security, I'm leaving. But, hey, thanks for taking her off my hands. Divorce lawyers are expensive, but this way, she's your problem now. I walked out to a crowd of whispers and stares, leaving Ron to salvage what he could of his professional reputation. The drive home was the most satisfying 20 minutes I'd had in months. But I was just getting started. That night, while Tessa was at another client meeting, probably consoling Ron about his ruined open house, I implemented phase 2 of my plan. Years of IT work had taught me that the most devastating attacks aren't the dramatic ones. They're the quiet ones that spread like viruses. I created several fake social media accounts using stock photos and generic names. Then I started leaving reviews on Ron's business pages. Nothing libelous or legally actionable, just the kind of vague complaints that make potential clients nervous. Unprofessional behavior at recent open house. Would not recommend based on personal experience. Questionable business ethics. I also found the neighborhood forum for Ron's upscale subdivision and created a post asking if anyone else had noticed unusual activity at his house. I didn't specify what kind of activity, just let people's imaginations fill in the blanks. By Thursday morning, Ron's business was getting calls asking about the incident at the open house. I know because I called his office myself, pretending to be a concerned investor. There was some kind of scene, his receptionist told me, but Mr. Vickers assures me it was just a misunderstanding with a disgruntled former client. What kind of scene? I really can't say. You'd have to speak with Mr. Vickers directly. Perfect. The story was spreading, getting distorted with each retelling, becoming more scandalous than the truth. That evening, Tessa came home looking shell-shocked. She went straight to the kitchen and poured herself a large glass of wine, which she drank like medicine. Rough day? I asked innocently. Ron had some trouble at work. Someone's been spreading rumors about him. What kind of rumors? She shot me a suspicious look. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Why would I know anything about Ron Vickers' business problems? I'm just an IT guy, remember? Invisible. The next morning brought an interesting development. Ron called me. We need to talk, he said without preamble. I'm sorry, who is this? You know damn well who this is. Meet me at Murphy's Tavern at noon. And Jameson? Come alone. I arrived at Murphy's 15 minutes early and took a seat at the bar where Pete could keep an eye on things. Ron showed up exactly at noon, looking like a man who hadn't slept well. His perfect hair was slightly mussed, and there were stress lines around his eyes that hadn't been there at the open house. You're going to stop this harassment campaign, he said, sliding into the seat next to me. I have no idea what you're talking about. The reviews, the forum posts, the scene at my open house, it ends now. I signaled Pete for a beer and took my time responding. You know, Ron, I've been thinking about what you said at your office, about investment opportunities, and I realized I've already made the biggest investment of my life, 12 years in my marriage. Funny how some investments just don't pay off the way you expect. Look, I understand you're upset. Upset? I laughed. Ron, I'm not upset. I'm grateful. You've shown me exactly what my marriage is worth, what my wife thinks of me, what kind of man she really wants. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. And now, everyone else thinks it too. I took a sip of my beer. Tell me, how's business been lately? Getting a lot of calls? His face darkened. You son of a bitch. Careful, Ron. We're in public. Wouldn't want to cause another scene. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. You have no idea who you're messing with. Actually, I do. I know your business is over-leveraged. I know your wife left you. I know you're desperate for new investors to keep your projects afloat. I met his eyes. And I know you're sleeping with my wife because you think it makes you feel powerful. But here's the thing. I'm the one with nothing left to lose. Ron stood up abruptly. This isn't over. No, it's not. But you might want to think carefully about your next move. Because I'm very good at finding information and I have a lot of time on my hands. After he left, Pete came over with a concerned expression. You sure you know what you're doing, buddy? For the first time in years, Pete, I know exactly what I'm doing. That weekend, I escalated things. Ron's Range Rover was parked in the lot behind his office building, probably because he was working late trying to manage the damage to his reputation. The lot was poorly lit and had no security cameras. I'd checked. I spent 2 hours turning his precious SUV into a work of art. Saran wrap covered every surface, layer after layer, until the thing looked like a giant cocoon. Then came the pièce de résistance, a collection of adult toys I'd ordered online. super glued to strategic locations all over the vehicle. I took photos from every angle, then posted them anonymously to the neighborhood forum with the caption, "Found this in the office parking lot on 5th Street. Anyone know whose car this is?" By Monday morning, the photos had been shared dozens of times. Ron's pristine professional image was officially in ruins. But Tessa was about to learn that I was just getting started. The confrontation with Tessa came Tuesday night, and it was everything I'd been building toward. She stormed through the front door like a hurricane, her face flushed with rage and embarrassment. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she screamed before the door was even closed. I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been reading the comments on Ron's car photos. The neighborhood forum had exploded with speculation, jokes, and increasingly creative theories about what had happened. "I'm sorry, are you talking to me? I thought I was invisible. Don't you dare throw that back at me. You know exactly what you've done." "I've done a lot of things lately. You'll have to be more specific." She threw her purse on the couch and started pacing like a caged animal. "The open house, the car, the reviews. You're trying to destroy Ron's business." "Actually, I'm trying to destroy Ron. His business is just collateral damage." The honesty of it seemed to stagger her. She stopped pacing and stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "This isn't you, Ethan. You don't do things like this." "You're right. The old Ethan didn't. The old Ethan would have suffered in silence while his wife screwed around and made him the laughingstock of her social circle. But the old Ethan is gone, Tessa. You killed him at Romano's restaurant." "I never meant—" "Yes, you did. Every word, every humiliation, every time you came home smelling like another man's cologne, you meant all of it." I closed the laptop and stood up. "The question is, what are you going to do now?" "I want a divorce." "Good, so do I. But here's the thing, you don't get to destroy me and walk away clean. You want to leave, fine. But you're going to leave with exactly what you brought to this marriage. Nothing." Her eyes widened. "You can't do that. I have rights." "Rights to what?" "Half the house you've been using as a hotel? Half the savings you've been spending on new lingerie for your boyfriend? Half the retirement account you were planning to steal? How did you—" She caught herself, but it was too late. "How did I know about your little plan to liquidate our assets? Tessa, I'm an IT consultant. I understand digital forensics, your laptop, your email, your cloud storage. You've been very careless with your passwords." The color drained from her face. "You can't use that in court. It's illegal." "Actually, it's not. We're married, remember? Joint property, joint accounts, joint access. Everything you've done, every plan you've made, every nasty thing you've said about me to your friends, it's all documented." I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Her voice filled the room, crystal clear. "Ethan's pathetic in bed. Ron makes me feel like a real woman for the first time in years." "You recorded me?" "You said it in our house, on our shared Wi-Fi network, during a video call with Chloe that you didn't realize was being automatically backed up to our joint cloud account." I stopped the recording. "There's about 6 hours of this stuff, Tessa. Want to hear more?" She sank onto the couch, the fight going out of her. "What do you want?" "I want you gone, tonight. Go stay with Ron or Chloe or whoever will have you. But you don't sleep in this house anymore." "And if I don't?" "Then tomorrow morning, I start sharing these recordings with your clients. I wonder how Miranda Thompson would feel knowing that her interior designer called her a tasteless cow with more money than sense during your girls' night last month." Tessa's face went white. Miranda Thompson was her biggest client, responsible for about 30% of her income. "You wouldn't. Try me." She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her calculating, trying to find an angle, a way to regain control. But for once in our marriage, I held all the cards. "I need time to pack. You have 1 hour. Take what you need for a few days. We'll work out the rest through lawyers." As she headed upstairs, I called Pete. "It's happening," I told him. "You sure about this?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." An hour later, Tessa came downstairs with 2 suitcases and a look of barely contained fury. "This isn't over, Ethan." "Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet." After she left, I poured myself a bourbon and sat in the sudden silence of my house. Our house, my house now. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe, but I wasn't done, not even close. The next morning, I implemented the next phase of my plan. I'd spent weeks studying Tessa's social circle, understanding the dynamics, the rivalries, the secrets they all kept from each other. And I'd learned something interesting. Chloe Martinez, Tessa's best friend and biggest supporter, had been having her own affair. It took me exactly 3 phone calls to confirm it. Chloe had been sneaking around with her personal trainer, a 26-year-old named Brad, who posted shirtless selfies on Instagram and drove a motorcycle. Her husband Dave was clueless, but Chloe had been careless, posting gym check-ins at suspicious times and liking Brad's photos a little too enthusiastically. I created a fake email account and sent Dave a simple message. Thought you should know what your wife does during her extended workouts. Check Brad Martinez Fitness on Instagram, then check your wife's activity. Within 6 hours, Dave had confronted Chloe. Within 12 hours, she was calling Tessa in hysterics, begging for support from a friend who was dealing with her own relationship crisis. The beautiful thing about social circles is how quickly they collapse once you remove the right support beams. Chloe couldn't help Tessa because she was dealing with her own scandal. Marissa was staying neutral to protect her own marriage. Lisa was already on my side after witnessing Tessa's cruelty. Bye.